Hello everyone, my name is Holden Hardman. Thank you so much for joining me again for another video. I'm so excited to have Sean Chandler over here. If you're not familiar with Sean, he does a lot of movie reviews, a lot of deep dives into stuff. He's a great YouTuber, and we have a lot in common, both in our movie preferences and the way that we think about movies. So I'm so excited to have him over here to talk about this very sometimes polarizing topic of where the movie industry is right now between Marvel and DC. And I just want to talk about some of the movies that we've seen this past year and how we're feeling going forward. And this is kind of a complimentary video to one that I did over on Sean's channel. I'll link that up here. But if you're not familiar with Sean, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you and where we can find you.
My name is Sean Chandler. My YouTube channel is Sean Chandler Talks About. And basically, if you're someone that loves to talk about movies way too much, that's why my channel exists. That's why I enjoy doing collaborations like this. And I do movie reviews, movie rankings, editorials, talk about movie news, all the different ways you can talk about movies. That's what I do. And as he mentioned, we got a companion video to this over on my channel talking about between Star Wars, DC, and Marvel, which one of these big franchises are we most excited for their future.
It is a good video. We had a really great discussion on that, and I'd like to change gears a little bit to the movies that have kind of already come out. I have given some opinions on the channel about how I viewed Superman, about Fantastic Four, Thunderbolts, sort of the situation that we're in with superhero movies in general, but also moving forward. I am very hopeful about where these franchises are going, despite some, I would argue, some pretty significant missteps on Marvel's part. The DCU is in a really great position, I think, of potential in that they got to reboot with Peacemaker Season 2, Creature Commandos, and now their big flagship with Superman. It's a universe that feels very lived in. I really like this Superman a lot. I had some preferential things I would have liked to have seen and some things I didn't really care for. But overall, I really like him. I really like the direction that they're going. But Sean, I wanted some just general movie reviews from you of like Thunderbolts, of Fantastic Four, of Superman, and how you're feeling about where these franchises are going.
I felt, generally speaking, this was kind of I viewed as like a course correction year for both of Marvel and DC. More overtly with DC because they went, okay, DC, you crashed and burned, full-blown reset, and this is the year where we're seeing that play out and what it looks like and launching something new. You have someone like James Gunn, who has been doing comic book movies for a decade now and was able to take the Guardians of the Galaxy, D-list Marvel characters that the general public had no clue who they were, and turn them into this beloved franchise that was very well received and made, Rocket Raccoon and Groot household names for normal people. And so that it was, in my mind, it's like, okay, if that's what he can do with the Guardians of the Galaxy and a talking tree, what can he do with Superman? But the flip side to that was also this kind of idea of maybe his skill set is working with groups of weirdos doing found family stories of all the loners find family in this dysfunctional team. And that's not what Superman is. Superman is Superman. and even in the movie, he's part of the Justice Gang or joining the Justice Gang. So even in that, there's a little bit of the loner joining the group, a little bit in there. But that was kind of my approach going into it. And kind of like what you said, I had squabbles with a couple things here and there about the movie, and like some things I would have calibrated it a little bit differently or something like that. But overall, I mean, it was a really cool, refreshing, modern version of Superman that feels like a classic version of Superman. It's not reinventing the character. It's not deconstructing him. It's not really even reimagining him, but it's putting him in the 2020s in a very comic booky world in a way that both VFX and then just general public's acceptance. By now, the general public is very accustomed to very weird stuff. So in the first scene of the movie, you can put a cape on a dog and people are like, oh, that's adorable. In a way, I just don't know that you could do that 20 years ago. They knew they needed to make a change, and they trusted someone with a distinct vision, and they let him run with his very James Gunn vision. And it was cool. And it's a world where you feel like every corner you turn, there's a new adventure to be had, a new character to be discovered, a new show, a new whatever. Iron Man starts off with like this very contained universe. It's about this one guy. Man of Steel, it's like, what if Superman showed up and he, wouldn't that be the biggest thing that ever happened on the earth? This movie, it's like, no, this is just the world. Like, this is commonplace. And that was almost my biggest criticism, is that it's too common that the fantastical stuff happens. But at the same time, like, that in and of itself is refreshing to just dive into the deep end of a comic booky world.
I think that there is a double-edged sword with multiverse or hyper lived in universes. We're starting like a refreshing beginning with this new Superman, but because it's going to be an expanded world, like that's the direction the DCU is going, because it's this shared universe. We were introduced to the Justice Gang, so there is a part of me that misses like the old school, like this is just a Superman standalone. And whether it's DC or Marvel, I don't feel like we really get that anymore. The last thing I could say that's probably the most recent is Matt Reeves' Batman, which feels like very like isolated in its own thing. Would that be a better movie if Superman was flying over screen or if the Green Lantern was involved? I'd argue probably not. So it is a give and take. I know like one thing I would have preferred about Superman was maybe just a little bit more Superman instead of what I think you touched on that James Gunn is very good at, taking like this group of misfit characters or like these familial stories versus James Gunn writing a single standalone character. I think he shines more in Guardians of the Galaxy, in Creature Commandos, these like group settings. I think he really shines there. Again, it's not a critique. It's not a bad thing necessarily, but it is a give and take thing.
Almost the fact that the movie brings the Justice Gang in, that's so prominent in the movie. I think that tells you so much about the way that he's wired. Or even you watch Peacemaker, it's about a team. Like it's called Peacemaker, but it is 100% about the ensemble. And that's just the way that he's wired and the thing that he's good at. Whether he knows that or it just happens to always lean in that direction, that's who he is.
Yeah.
I think the real test for the DCU is some of these next projects that start to get further away from him because thus far, Creature Commandos, Superman, Peacemaker, written, directed by him. Or certainly written, directed gets a little bit more complicated with television, but he was the creative force. So what are these other ones going to look like when we get into Supergirl next year, Lanterns? I'm very curious about that. And what does the tone look like? But also that's what's exciting. That's the side to it of like, you don't know how much creative license they're giving everyone else and everything like that. You go, I just want to explore it. I want to find out. And that's where I have so much excitement for the DC universe right now.
It's a nice, like, refreshing sense of, I wonder where they can go with this. Whereas I think, like, because Marvel, like the MCU is so old to us, like there's like restrictions. Like you can't have Captain America now teaming up with Doctor Strange in this universe. It would have to be like a multiversal thing. Versus like DC, we're starting fresh. We can go anywhere. We can have anybody team up and build our story around that. So in that aspect, I am really excited to see what they're going to do and where they're going to go.
It's just on the simple fact of like with the MCU, we have over 50 projects. We've done so much already.
Yeah.
We've done through so many things. We've explored so many different corners. We know the boundaries. We know so much. And, you know, it's irritating when they break that. Like people be like, well, She-Hulk was really different. Agatha was really different. And so the people that liked those love those for the difference. And then some of us that are older and crankier are like, hey, that's not my MCU. I don't want a lawyer's show about a lady's love life in my universe that I started watching because of Iron Man. But when you have a clean slate, it's like you almost want them to like, how far can they go? Let me find out what their parameters are at and what I'm okay with. And that works much better in something like the DCU, which is fresh and new, rather than something that is over 15 years old and we've already seen so much.
I think they have some strengths and weaknesses that are unique to their circumstances. As you pointed out with the DCU, like they can go anywhere, they can really do anything that they want with these loved and nostalgic characters. Marvel is a little bit more constricted in that department, but they've had 15 years to build at least like an established I'm going to use the word continuity, even though the multiverse kind of unwrangles that. But there is like even in the MCU, the sacred timeline. But Marvel has all that history with general audiences and like big fans, even though they've kind of squabbled some goodwill in the past couple of years. They're trying to get back on track. And I don't think that it's nothing. I don't think that that's like an irrelevant factor. DC having that big opening is going to be huge for them because right now they've gained a lot of goodwill, particularly with the Superman movie. But that could be dropped as soon as we get the Lanterns like sucks, or they just totally missed the mark, and then it's going to be, oh my gosh. Because I remember when Star Wars was first bought by Disney, Episode 7 came out, and they were like, it's kind of close to A New Hope, but I really like these characters. There's a lot of potential. The following year, Rogue One comes out, and we're like, okay, this was probably the best choice they could have made. We're going to get all these Star Wars movies. It's going to be great. Then Episode 8 comes, and it's like the most divisive thing ever. After that is Solo, and they're like, nobody cares anymore. So even though DC has goodwill right now, it can be dropped. That's when I say, like, I'm cautiously optimistic. I want them to succeed because they're so early. A fall or a drop will hurt them more than maybe a drop or a fall with Marvel at this point might.
Yeah, with Marvel, there is like, when you got to ship that big, everything, whether story, reputation, it's harder to turn it. It's harder to like spike people's excitement because we already have so much built-in history, but it's also difficult to tank their excitement. There's a lot baked into it, where with this, it's just started. And I even wonder, with Peacemaker being so hard R, like how will people even respond as we play out Peacemaker, and are people okay with the fact that we're have this movie that you took your family to, and the very next thing, like, your kids absolutely better not watch that?
There is a distinction, I think, between Marvel and DC about that right now, because Marvel typically tries to keep it, there are some exceptions like Deadpool, Wolverine, for example, but like generally their stuff is on Disney Plus. They try to make it somewhat appropriate for like a 13-year-old, versus DC, where you have Superman, a character very family friendly, messaging very much about hope and positivity and goodness. And to your point, another thing in that line very recently is hard R-rated Peacemaker, very vulgar, grotesque gore, and so I don't think it's appropriate for like kids to be going and seeing that, but they'll see Peacemaker in the Superman movie or what. So I think that there is like a distinction, a difference that might be a point in DC's favor, because you can have more mature movies and TV shows catered towards that more mature audience, whereas Marvel typically will try to keep it in line. I think they're dabbling a little bit in the R-rated territory with Deadpool, Wolverine, but it seems to be a gross exception to the rule versus what DC is sort of establishing is the rule. You can have both, and they're both fairly common. So we'll see how that'll play out in the long run. I think that will be a unique, maybe refreshing, nice change of pace for DC to have these more mature movies be more, or TV shows, as a more common thing.
I think what Marvel struggled with is that they'd so built a system that was each movie is a new episode of the franchise. Everyone can watch all of them, and you kind of need to watch the piece of everything together. And then when they went into television, it kind of got real murky and blurry of like, all right, how much homework do I need to do to understand this movie? Then DC from the beginning is like, all right, and we're going to make TV, like Creature Commandos was technically the first thing in the DCU, and it is weird, it's sexual, it's very violent, like, it's super, like, I haven't even finished it because it got so dark. I was like, this is so James Gunn, you're ripping my heart out, you're breaking my heart, I can't finish this, I need to, like, I'll come back in later and finish it because I think you're doing a good job, but also, like, this is too much for me. And it's saying from the very beginning, you don't have to watch this stuff. You have permission to skip stuff, and we'll let you know what you do need, or we'll figure out how that's going to work. Versus The Marvels was a sequel to a movie that made $1 billion, and globally it made like $200 million.
Yeah,
I mean,
wild.
1/5, which is just crazy drop off, and certainly baked into that was, if you want to understand this, you got to watch WandaVision, you got to watch Miss Marvel, you got to watch Secret Invasion. And it's like, people just went, I didn't care that much about Captain Marvel. I think I'll sit this one out.
One thing that it comes to with my excitement towards DC or Marvel, and to like quantify it, is that like, while I'm happy and like excited where DC is going to go, I can't think of any specific upcoming project that I'm like really dying to see. Maybe Supergirl to see like what they're gonna do, but like with Marvel, I know that the next Avengers movies are coming out, and even though the Marvel universe is a little flimsy right now, I have a lot of hope that those are going to be executed well. I certainly want them to be. So when I think of like the future of where they're both going, I feel like with Marvel, I have a little bit more of something to grasp onto that. That I'm looking forward to. Whereas DC, it's like, it's so much potential, but there's not really like one particular project that we know is coming down the line to hold on to. So let me ask you, Sean, is there a particular DC project coming down the pipeline that you're looking forward to, that's got you really excited? And similarly, is there like a Marvel project, Marvel movie or show that you're really excited to see, and why?
It's a little tough because with the DCU, they announced a bunch of things 2 years ago, and then they've been like, some of these are on the back burner, some of them we're not doing them anymore. And then there's stuff like they announced Batman Brave and the Bold, but there hasn't been any updates on it in 2 years. So there's an ambiguity where I was really excited about Batman Brave and the Bold based on the idea just that they're doing a Bat family story.
Yeah.
Which, like, we've only done Batman and Robin with those Joel Schumacher movies. We've never done the non-super campy version of it.
Right.
So that's a thing that is so pivotal to Batman and the lore that's not in the movies. Like, they've got the guy they touched to direct it is the guy that did The Flash. I am actually a Flash defender, but I don't think he's the right guy for Batman, so I've got a lot of mixed feelings on it. But Lanterns next year, I just think sounds really interesting to do a live-action Green Lantern done right. It's got Kyle Chandler as Hal Jordan, which he's got a great last name, so I'm a huge fan of him. He's also lives in Texas, so I'm a big fan of that. And then the other guy in it, Aaron Pierre, who was in Rebel Ridge last year. I watched Rebel Ridge, and then I watched it a second time that same day. I was like, who is this guy? Like, this guy's awesome. Like, he just has such a screen presence. And then, like, he just started getting, picked up left and right. Just today, he was announced to be in a Star Wars movie. He's now Jon Stewart in Green Lantern, or Lanterns. So that one, I'm more interested in that one than Supergirl, because doing Green Lanterns as this buddy investigation cop show with those two guys, I just want to see what that is.
Yeah.
Like, that's just interesting to me. And then on the Marvel side, I have a lot of red flags about these upcoming Avengers movies. I hope I'm wrong, but
sure.
It just, everything they announce is just key jangling. It's like, hey, look who's coming back. So the one I'm excited for that's actually on the books is Spider-Man next year. I wish that they were doing a standalone film. I wish they could do that. I guess, there's the deal with the trade characters, so they have to have MCU characters showing up in it. And so we got Hulk in it, and Punisher's in it. And like, I wish it wasn't so filled with other people. But they got the guy that did Shang-Chi to direct it. Apparently yesterday they said Jackie Chan in an interview said his stunt team is doing the stunts on it.
Ooh. And
Jackie Chan was on set working on it, and they're doing practical swings. Like, I hear all of that, and I feel like, okay, I wish that it was just a standalone him in New York City classic Spider-Man story. But my preferential direction things aside, there's a lot in there that I'm like, this feels like a cool Spider-Man movie. And that they came off a movie that made $2 billion or whatever, and they didn't rush this out. They went, hey, let's take 5 years to do the next one, which is like tied for the longest gap between Spider-Man movies, live action Spider-Man movies. They went, let's take our time. While Sony is like, let's crank out every crappy Spider-Man villain movie you can.
Madam Web, baby.
Yeah, like,
5 stars.
Let's throw that and Craven and everything. And they went, but let's take our time to do another Spider-Man movie because they're respecting it. They're like, let's do this right. So like, I have a really good feeling about that. And originally, the director of this was going to do Kang Dynasty. This feels like a better fit to me. This is like, that he can actually put a stamp on it. Like, an Avengers movie, by definition, is basically Marvel the movie, versus he can put his stamp on a Spider-Man movie. So that's the one I'd be excited for.
Sure. I think those are really great points. I don't know if I'd stick with just like the devil I know in Marvel. You made a good point about the Spider-Man movie that I'm really looking forward to, especially after seeing some of the set photos. I totally agree with a lot of the red flags that you have brought up before about the Avengers movies coming out. My only reservation with DC is that we're in such a level of potential, but as you kind of pointed out there's nothing like really solidified that's coming down the pipeline that I can like hold on to. You mentioned kind of Lanterns. I kind of really like that. The Supergirl movie is going to be one, but like, I think for me, if they were like, hey, the next Batman that's going to be in the DCU is like, we're working on that. Here's some like teaser stuff. I think for like where I'm at, I think that would really put me over the edge of like, oh boy, I'm totally sold on this. Versus Marvel, where it's like part of it is kind of going through the motions with the MCU, with like the Avengers stuff, and you want it to be good, and it's kind of murky. Spider-Man is one that like I'm really looking forward to. So as much as I'm excited for the DC potential, I really need something more concrete to be like, that is what I'm looking forward to. That's going to be the one. Maybe it'll be Matt Reeves' The Batman 2, if that ever gets off the ground, like if they're ever going to finish that one. But as far as like, and that's not even DCU, or maybe it is. They've been kind of going
right.
You know, but we'll see.
It's just like they've got like a Clayface movie that's in the works,
right?
And you go like that. Maybe that'll be really cool. Like Mike Flanagan did the script for it, and I go, I mean, he's done some awesome horror stuff, and so if he's got like this really smart, but also I have no idea what that is. Like a Clayface movie, like with that, when there's not an established Batman, like I don't know what that movie is. So I like the creative vision, the outside the box. We're doing something different. All that's awesome, but I don't know what it is. Where like you say, hey, we're doing a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie where Hulk shows up and Punisher's in it, and it's from the guy that directed Shang-Chi. I go, and here's set photos. I know what that is.
Yeah.
Like I have a handle on that.
Well, guys, we'd love to know some of your thoughts on these topics. I know that some of it can be a little controversial. I think that as far as like the main fandoms go, I am optimistic about the DCU, but I don't think I'm quite as bought in as so many others. I feel kind of like an outsider in that regard, but I'm so optimistic. I want it to be good, and I'm rooting for them, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Let us know some of your thoughts. Sean, thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to check out our conversation on his channel. It'll be linked in this video. Sean, where can we find you, and what are you working on?
Yeah, you can find me over at Sean Chandler Talks About. You can look up Sean Chandler on YouTube. You either find an NFL player or a guy that looks like me talking about movies. It's the guy that looks like me that's talking about movies, and whatever the new movies coming out are, that's what I'm talking about. And this isn't the busiest time of year for new movies, so there's actually not a ton of super exciting stuff coming up on my channel, unfortunately, right now. But that's also why we had the time to do the collaboration. So our collaboration is the exciting thing.
Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Leave this video a like if you did enjoy it. Subscribe so you can be notified when we post the next video, and hopefully Sean and I will be able to tie up and talk about more specific things. That's probably a good question for you guys. If there are any topics or movie-related content that you'd like to see Sean and I talk about, whether we agree or maybe we'll disagree, that might be fun for you guys to see us actually have more opposing positions.
Yes, if
we
if
really
you guys
don't
know of
have a
something
lot.
we disagree on, let us know. Let's have the fiery one in the comments. Let us know what that is.
Thank you again, Sean. Guys, thank you for watching. We'll catch you in the next video. Take care.